Hi, my name is Anthony Stillman, and today I'm going to begin teaching Python for laboratory data. The objective of this course is to essentially train people in Python uh, to get them up and running and be able to use it for analyzing and visualizing lab data, specifically molecular work. All right. So, title of the class. Here's my name. Here's my contact information. You want to email me questions. And let's get started with the basics of the course. First class, which is this class, we're going to be going over basics of Python, which is installing Python and then installing pycharm, which we'll get into later, and then the basic parts of Python programming. And then we're going to get into pandas. Pandas is basically a data formatting and analyzing program in Python. It's kind of like Excel. And then we're going to go for class 3. We're going to go into Seaborn, which is a data visualization program. So we'll get to that in a few weeks. And then class 4, we're going to go through loops, define functions, and BioPython. And class 5, we will continue with BioPython. This is probably the most useful stuff, but it's also the most difficult stuff, so we're going to get into it towards the end of the course. You can see here that there are links underneath all these. They are either download links, which is these 3, or videos that are online that will explain things about these topics. Or there are We Schools links or links to the documentation for the thing we are learning, like this one, and these can be read or watched to learn more. All right. Now let's get into the class. So first part we're going to do is, let's get a copy of this and enter it. Oop. And you can see here, so Python is a free programming tool, and you can just download it here. You can see those Linux, Windows, and other things. So you just click here, download. I'm not going to do it because I already have Python on my computer, and I don't want to start confusing it by downloading other ones, especially in the middle of recording myself right now. And once you got Python, once you download that, you'll be able to start using Python on your computer. But the thing is that like Python looks like this, and in this state, the basic state is not very useful. Hello world. Like you can use it this way, but like it's not user friendly, let's say. So after you download Python, a thing you want to do is back here. You want to go to JetBrains, which is a pycharm shell, and basically I'll show you in a second, but you download this Windows or well, there's Linux versions too. You can see here, or Mac, whatever programming version you want. They all function the same. That's one of the beauties of Python is that you can write a program in Windows and then you can run it in Mac or Linux. or the way around. Uh, for me personally, most of the programming I do actually right now is for people who are not very technically savvy. It's like small businesses and like my lab. And so I use Windows a lot, but but there are but if you're working for somebody who's more a more tech savvy group, they'll probably be using Linux because that's preferred and it's honestly better for that type of work. But I'll be using Windows. But anything I say here will mostly be applicable to these Linux or Mac. Um, so you download that and you get there's a program already written for the class, but you get a pycharm, and this is not the only shell available. There's very other ones. There's like Anaconda and other ones out there. I just like pycharm myself. Um, so take that any way you if you want to use a different shell, that's fine. Python is just running Python either way. But I just like this one after trying the other ones more. Have a little drink. So now that you have Python and PyCharm, you can let's go over like some basics of Python. So the first thing you do when you're running Python, like the first thing like you do, I don't mean like every single time you do, but like the first time you do, you have to say hello world, and you can see, except that, you can see control. You hit next to the line you want. You say control enter, and it prints out and it runs the line you're currently at, or you could run multiple lines at once. You run everything at once if you want, but I'm not gonna do that right now because I'm going over things. So, so hello world is using the print function, and I'm basically type a quote in here of the thing you want to get printed, and it'll make a output in the console. The print function is very useful because like when you're actually building programs, you can essentially like, oh, you want to see what point at this point what is the program actually doing, and you can make it print out whatever variable it's created. So, and it can print various things, print numbers, it can print integers, it can print math, you know, very, very straightforward. It's just print and the thing you want to be printed out. And it just prints out the console. It like prints out into like the environment. It doesn't like go to a printer or anything, of course. And something else is that when you're when you're working with Python, you don't actually work with like these exact variables. You can assign like this variable. You can assign it as this. So x I have assigned to I am assigned, and it's the variable designation equal sign, and then like whatever you're assigning it as. I'm going to print that. And you can see there we're printing, even though we're printing x, we are, make that smaller. Even though we're printing x, we are printing I am assigned, which is what it's assigned as. All right. So a little bit digression, but there's types of variables in Python. There is a there are strings, which are just things in quotation marks essentially. So this is a string. This is a string, even though it has like the single quotes. It's upset. And there's these, and even if you have numbers inside there, it does not just be letters. As long as it has the quotes, it'll be detected as a string. The next thing are integers. Integers are whole numbers. You can see here 1, 34, 555. Integers are whole numbers. And finally, there are floats. And floats are just a decimal, they're fractions, essentially. And all these are treated somewhat differently within Python, so be aware of like what you have. Like you can't like for example, we'll get more into this in the math section. You can time the 1 by 2 and it'll give you something, it'll give you 2. But if you put if you give quote marks around that 1, it's no longer it starts acting different. You can see that like instead of timesing 1 by 2 and making 2, it times 1 the string 1 twice together to make 11. So they act different. One of the things you can do to figure out what type your variable is that you use the function type. So like this, it tells you the string str. This one you do it integer int, and then this is a float. All right. And then you actually can force a variable to be a certain way, but be very careful of this, and I'll show you why. So like, let's turn this 3 into a string. Hey, this is a 3. Now it's a string, has quotes around it. Make it integer is already integer, so nothing changes. Or we can make it a float, and suddenly it has like a 0.0 next to it to indicate that it's a float. Here's the dangerous part, is that you can actually lose data. So let's do it again, but with 3.99. String, fine. It's not a number anymore, so that's concerning. So it's a loss of data, but it's not the worst. Integer, you can see the issue now is that even though this is a 3.99, it is now a 3. So like if you're using this for later math, it would very much affect your result. And then float, it's fine because it was already a float. So I touched on this like briefly earlier. You can assign variables to things, to like objects. You can assign variables values. So like let's say that like we want x to be 6, that represents 6. You want y to be 4.5. And you want z to be blah, like the word blah. Now let's print out x. X is 6. You can see here. Y is 4.5. And then z is blah. So they are assigned they are now those values. And you can make them interact with each other and like act like they're values. So let's times x by y, 27. And you can see here it's now a float. Even though x was a integer, a whole integer, since y is a float, it makes it a float. This is something to point out. And now we can times x by z, and now it's blah 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 blah, because it's essentially multiplying the string and putting it together 6 times. Another important thing to understand about these variables is that they can be overwritten, because like right now x is 6, like we assigned it. Forgot to put this in. But you can just like, but you can assign it to a different value, like there. So I assigned x to I used to be 6 string. And now we run x, and you can see it is no longer that. And this is both a very valuable and also very dangerous when you're programming because you can override something without on accident, and it can mess up like a bunch of stuff, and it's really hard to figure out. But at the same time, if you want a thing to be changing as a program's running, this is actually very useful. But we're gonna get into that like class 5, so I don't worry about it. Okay. Variable names. There is a um, like template how to do this. Variable names are either you just like have them all lowercase, so my variable is Daisy, or you have my variable is Daisy, but I like have every single word in the variable capitalized. Or if you um, or if you want to like not have the capitalization, but you still want to indicate like the words inside the variable name, um, you add like a underscore to separate them. There's some other rules. One of the main ones is that some certain characters, specifically numbers, cannot go in front of variable name. So like let's run with 3 in the middle of the name. Nothing happens, it's fine. Let's run with 3 at the end of the name. Nothing happens, it's fine. But when we run it when it's in front of it, it still works. It's not supposed to do that. Oh, there we go. It causes an issue. Um, it causes an error because the program does not allow that. And while we're here, if you ever run into an error, what you do is that you just to figure it out. One of the first things you just copy it and you just paste it into Google, and then somebody out there has probably had the same issue as you, and you can read how they fixed it. So Google is your friend when you're working with this type of stuff. There's so much information out there. All right. So, and then there's this a neat thing you can do called multiple assign. I don't, I've never really used it. I think I've used it once and it's useful, but usually it's not. It just complicates things, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. So, didn't want me to click that. Try to click out of it. So you have X, Y, Z, and you can see that X will be assigned hello because of these dashes. Y will be the, and then Z will be world. Hit that, and then let's print X. Hello, the world. So that's a neat trick, but it's not neat. It's not like super urgent or necessary. On Python, you also can do maths. So, 3 plus 6, 9, subtraction, all very self-explanatory. No, that's fine. Multiplication, division, and you can do this with integers and floats with and without each other. Exponents. So you can do math, but it's pretty straightforward. It's just, how you would do it on a calculator, essentially. Now we're going to get into comparisons. Comparisons are using, or just comparing values. And you can see like 5 is 5 more than 3? And the answer is when you run it, control enter, it returns true. And then you can do the same thing less, and also choose 6 is smaller than 9. And then more or equal to, so you still have the same symbol, but now you have an equal sign next to it. So is 5 greater or equal to 6? False, it is not. And then is then less or equal to, which is 5 greater or equal to 5? True, they're the same. And then you can determine if values are the same, and that is a double equal sign. So is 5 equal to 5? Yes. Is 5 equal to 6? No, false. And then is our value is not the same. So is 5 not equal to 5? False. Is 5 not equal to 6? True. This later on, we're not going to use this immediately, but later on, this will actually be very important. This type of things, the equals are not equals to, because they help with more complex programming of like, oh, if this is more than this, do this, or this is less than this, then do this. So this will come back later on, and I'll explain it again once we get there. And then there's booleans, which are true or false. True or false, and they actually they can be used the same way with the comparison functions, which is like, is true equal to true? True. Is true equal to false? False. Is true not equal to false? True. These will also be very useful in the future and more programming. All right, now let's get into groups. So groups are basically just multiple pieces of data bound together into one variable. The first one is my favorite one, and is lists. A list is a changeable data format, and it is defined as like a variable name, equal sign, assigning it to values. And right here I have all strings, but they can be anything. Can be in here as long as it's one value, comma, another value, comma, separating them. So let's do that. All right. So these can be numbers or DNA sequences or protein sequences or um, cholesterol levels. They can be anything. And when you can actually look at what's inside a list. And something about Python, which is very strange, is that it is zero indexed. So the first number in Python is not 1, it is 0. So you can see here the first value in this list is Apple. So you think you put my list and then brackets 1 to get Apple. No, 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 no. You use brackets and you put a 0, and it will produce an apple. So remember, Python always starts with 0. It's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and onwards. It doesn't start with 1. And you see when I run my list brackets 1, which allows you to call a certain value within the list, it just produces banana. And then let's do my list 2. It produces cherry, which is at the end of the list. There's something you can do, which is get a slice. A slice is a range within a list. And you hit this. RG working. So usually it's supposed to. I don't know how he's doing that. There we go. So Oh, I know why it's doing that. So basically, a list, it starts as a beginning, which will produce produce what is being selected. So, and then the beginning. Sorry, I'm not explaining this well. Is the beginning, and then there's the end of what the portion you want to get. So one represents the second position, which is banana, and three is beyond the end, which is over here because it won't read actually the end. And you hit, and then it produces a banana cherry, so the last two parts of the list. You can actually add values to a list. So my list dot append orange. Let's do that. Rerun it, and it and you can see here that orange has been added to the end of the list. And you actually can replace values in all this. So my list 0. So your 0 once again is apple. And we're going to replace it with a carrot. And let's go look at list again. You can see apple's been replaced by carrot. All right, and then you can also remove things from a list. So it's my list dot remove. Hit this, and then let's look at it, and you can see that carrot is no longer in the list. Tuples are basically lists that can't be changed. So once you create a tuple, which is you give it a variable name, equal sign to assign it, and then parentheses, and then what's inside it. But once you do this, once you hit enter, you can't change it. You can't manipulate it like you can a list. So if you want a piece of data, a list of things that's not, you can't like mess with, this a tuple is where you want to be. And but you can look up like what's inside it, like a list, but you can't mess with it. Like we'll try my tuple and we'll try to append it. Doesn't work. We'll try to assign apple position as carrot again. Doesn't allow you to do it. So it's immutable. Once you assign it, you can overwrite it technically, but you can't like fuss with it. You can't like change things within inside it. You can only reassign it. The final group is a dictionary. A dictionary is a group which has a key and then a value related to it. And essentially, it's like you use the key to get the value, um, which is it's essentially like a more for like a more exact list. Like instead of just putting 0, you have to like actually put like a name to get the thing out. So let's run it. My dictionary. You see here, use a dictionary, the keys and their value, a key and its value, a key and its value. And then if you want to get a certain value, you get to write in the keys. So I'm gonna write in brand, and we get the value Ford. You can add things to the dictionary, and you can do that by writing dictionary bracket the name of the key bracket equal sign, and then what you want to assign it to. And you can see here now there is a type and muscle car. All right, we have a little bit more time, so I'm gonna go over some other stuff. Um, before I talked about slicing, like this portion right here of a list, you actually can do the same thing with a string. So let's go st equals a b c a b c d e f g. All right, assign that, and then st, and then brackets, and 4 and 3, and then 8. Let's just get a slice of this string. So I assigned a string, and now we're going to get a portion of it. And this is actually very useful for if you're looking at like genetic sequencing and DNA sequences. Sorry, they're both the same thing. Or protein sequences, amino acid sequences, because you can just like take parts of it out or like look at a part you want. So this will be very useful later on. Something else you can do is actually a thing called a step. So a step is like, so for here we're going 3, which is here, and then we're going to 8, which is beyond, so it's everything else. But then like you tell it to do steps. So every step, so like first one is 3, which is D, outputs D, and then it goes 1, 2, it's because the 2 step, and it gets the F. And it puts out F. And then after that there's nothing else out. There's G, but like G is a first step, and the next 2 step is not even there. Some useful functions, let's keep on going, is length. I'm going to do st, use a length function st, it just tells you how long st is. And that's about everything I want to cover for today. So this is just the very basics. I know I went over a lot of stuff very quickly, but like hopefully you can actually run this stuff and actually look at it. It's very basic. The basic parts. It's the letters of the alphabet for Python. We had to learn it so you can like do everything else. But actually, next class will be actually being doing things that are actually useful. Things you can learn that are more useful, like uh, pandas. And I'm going to assign optional assignments at the end of each of these classes that you can send to me afterwards. Just like it's practice. It's practice work for what you're learning. And today's one is pretty simple. It's just download Python and then whatever shell you want, pycharm, and then get this upload this file and just start playing around with the stuff I have here already. I just to get used to it and possibly like watch and possibly do some of the reading if you want. All right, cool. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to your questions. Which, if everything worked out right, I'll be here live in a second. You can just talk to me. All right, bye.